Just give me the light of day where I can get out of this tent and not be in pitch black dark out in these woods. Um, and of course, once that happened, we all were thinking the same thing, and so it was like, bam, everyone's awake as though the alarm clock went off as soon as daylight comes. And we're like, none of us slept. We could have sat up and talked. But instead, we laid there trying to find a good position to sleep on that hard ground. Um, and you might be thinking, Janice, how on earth did you end up going tent camping with Amber and John? Well, I feel that there was a very strategic reason in place as to why I was asked along. Um, Aside from my fun, and charming personality, of course, I think it's because that Amber knew I had a little bit of experience. And the key word here is little, okay? I'm not an avid camper. I have been tent camping maybe 8 or 9 times with different things. But I'm not a pro by any stretch of the imagination. Amber's very spontaneous. She doesn't plan too much when she's going somewhere. She just goes. But this time she planned. She planned because she asked me along. That was her planning. She knows that I'm going to more than likely over-prepare and over-plan for things. So, that was her way of planning for this. And in all fairness, I really believe that Amber's heart was, I want John to actually enjoy this. Because she likes the outdoors so much, she's thinking, if I can just let him see how fun it can be, and he can enjoy it, then we'll be going camping. And you know what I'm saying? So, well, it might not have quite fared out that way, but I do think she had the right heart about it. Yes, so I have been camping enough to know that I can put up a tent, and I could put up a tent fairly quickly. I know how to do the tinfoil dinners in the campfires. So, she calls that success and good. We eat, we have a tent. So I was trying to make this a successful experience for everyone. We had the kids going. It'd be fun. And so I started planning. Now, I didn't have a long time to plan because Amber's spontaneous. I had a few days in there. But so I was thinking on this trip, after Jonathan mentioned that about position, I couldn't get that out of my head. And so I was just, sitting before the Lord one day, and he brought it up just a few days ago. He brought it up to me. He said, you remember John talking about that camping trip? I said, yeah, I do. And he said, you remember how you tried to prepare for that trip in a way that to make it just as easy as possible, a way that would put you in the best position to have a fun and easy trip? I said, I remember that well. Amber informed me that it was rustic camping. So I don't know. How many of you have been camping? Let's go ahead and get that out of the way. Have you been camping in a tent? In a tent. Rustic camping in a tent? Well, I learned that means there's no bathroom. Now, that is something that I had not previously experienced. I like a bathroom. I don't know about y'all, but I like a bathroom. So, no bathroom. I saw something one time on Pinterest. I'm going to fix this up where I have something. So I have Gerald cut the bottom off of a 5-gallon bucket, and I take a pool noodle, and I cut it down the one side, and I put it around the top of this bucket as the toilet seat, cushion. I got to have some frills out there camping, right? And then you take this hula hoop, and you put the shower curtain on it, and you hang it from the tree around your little potty, your porta potty thing, and you've got your little bathroom, you got your privacy. Well, it didn't quite work out that way, but anyway, I was really planning. That just gives you an idea. And then I was chopping up all the vegetables and the meat and stuff for the tinfoil dinners and getting all that ready and prepared, and I managed to get all that food into one relatively small cooler. So I'm thinking, it's okay. It's one night of rustic camping, and I can do this. So, as I'm preparing to take all this stuff on this trip, kind of like Bishop says sometimes he says, with my lightning fast mind, I'm thinking, wow, this is a lot of stuff that I'm having to take camping. If you've been camping, you know it takes a lot of stuff to go camping. Well, it does for me. I don't know. Y'all might have another idea, but it takes me a lot of stuff. I like to eat. And, if anyone's ever traveled with me, not only did I have to pack the normal stuff, like we had to have a tent, we had to have sleeping bags and camping chairs and our tinfoil and our food to make those tinfoil dinners, some plastic stuff to maybe eat with a little bit. You need your starter logs for the fire. I do. Starter logs for the fire and food for the next morning. I'm not missing breakfast. Flashlights, a hatchet, all the normal, camping stuff. Well, everywhere I travel, whether it's a hotel, your house overnight, or camping, I take a blanket and a pillow everywhere I go. And if there's a night involved away from home, I've got a blanket and pillow. So throw that into my camping stuff as well. So a lot of people maybe would have not even packed a change of clothes, but of course I did for the next morning. I packed me and Micah a change of clothes down in my backpack and stuff. So I'm thinking, my goodness, this is a lot of stuff. We're not going to fit all this in our backpacks, and we're not going to be able to carry it all in our hands. Because I also found out we're not driving up to this campsite. We're hiking to this campsite. Amber says it's only a mile. Just a mile, from where we park. Okay, all right, one night, I can do this, right? So I had a brilliant idea. I have this beach wagon that we use at the beach. You pile all your beach stuff in it, and you pull it out to the beach, and it just works fabulous. It's got the big tires on it. I said, we'll pack this beach wagon down, wear our backpacks, pack down this, and we'll be set. Brilliant. Yeah, so we get it all packed and we get started on this trip. We're going down the trail. This beach wagon is a beach wagon for a reason. It's not a trail wagon. It was very, very difficult. Jonathan ended up taking my rope from my curtain around my potty and tying it around him in the wagon trying to pull it. Amber and Caleb, I'm trying to say Caleb, my son, and Abel at the same time. Caleb wasn't there. Micah and Abel took turns pushing the wagon behind Jonathan trying to pull it, So it was a hard thing to get that wagon up there with that stuff in it, But anyway, so we get there. And we are setting up. Oh, I forgot to mention this fun fact. There was a nice little light, steady rain falling during all of this. So, And I have camped some with a little bit of rain here and there. Well, a lot of rain. I have camped in rain. And I do know you don't touch, like, the top of your tent or something because it could leak maybe. I don't know. I heard a story about that one time. So I was telling them, we put this tent up. Don't be touching it because I don't want the water in here with me. Anyway, we get this tent put up. John's getting the fire started, and I realized the food's back in the truck. Well, like I said, I'm going to eat. So I said, I felt really bad because I rode the whole way there with the food thing under my legs thinking, I shouldn't have forgot the food. If it's right there under me. When I got out, I should have seen it. I felt bad. So I was like, you know what? I'll go back and get the food. Y'all stay here, get it, get the fire going, get it ready. It won't, whatever. Amber said, you're not walking all the way back there to the truck by yourself. I'm going with you. So we leave Jonathan and the kids there with the fire, and we walk back, and we get the food. Well, it's packed, y'all. That cooler is heavy, and it's not a huge cooler. We had to both take part of that handle and carry that, work together. You're probably thinking, my goodness, what a horrible trip they had. And if I sat back and I bet you, like, if you asked Jonathan, was it a good trip, he would probably tell you, no, it wasn't a good trip. And if you'd asked me, like, before this kind of came to, God showing me this, I'd say, no, it really wasn't that great of a trip. But God started reminding me of something. And he said, y'all did not get out there and start complaining or blaming each other. Like, I didn't get blamed because I left the food in the truck. Now, I don't know what was going through anyone's mind, but no one blamed, Amber didn't get fussed at the whole time and complained too about why did we have to come on this stupid camping trip. You know what I'm saying? That wasn't what was happening at all. We laughed. We had fun. We didn't sleep, but we didn't, complain the whole rest of the day about not sleeping. We made the best of it, and what I realized is we were making the best of it for one another. So although I had tried all this stuff to put us in the best possible position that nothing seemed to work out to be a good position, we took a good position. We took a good position with our attitudes and everything. And, although I don't want to go back and experience that same trip again, and although I'm not like longing for a time I get to go back and sleep in a tent again, I can look back and say, it had its struggles and it was, a hot mess, but at the same time we had fun. We enjoyed it. And it's all what position we take with things, our attitudes. And, sometimes, like I said, we can't prepare and be set up exactly right, but we can take our minds to the right position and where we should be looking at. So, you think about there's so many things in the Bible that shows both sides of this that could have happened, right? You think about Moses leading the Israelites out of Egypt and how much they complained at different points along the way. Although God was providing miraculously for them from point A to point B, they complained the whole time, and then they get to the promised land, and they're too afraid. They have too much fear to go in and take what God has promised them. And so that cost them greatly. But then you look at Daniel in the lion's den. He knew what could happen to him if he positioned himself before God and prayed and spent time in his presence. He knew what that position could bring him, but he did it anyway, and God delivered him. Then you think about Samson. He positioned himself around the wrong people. He allowed Delilah to take a position in his life that brought him down. How do we position ourselves in our surroundings, whether they're favorable or unfavorable? Our position determines the outcome.
That's good.
Yes, we do. It does determine our outcome and what we're looking at, or how we consider things. My idea, when Janice told me position, I'm like, you got to give me a little more than that than position, because I knew what the Lord had been working in me for about 2 weeks, and I knew when He gave it to me I was going to have to share it, or going to have the privilege of sharing it. Let me put it that way. And I thought, how in the world does this fit together? But then I got to looking at it with that thought in mind. She planted that thought of position. Okay. And I began to see it a little differently, see another aspect of it. So I'm going to take you to Acts chapter 10. This is after the outpouring of the Holy Spirit on the Jews, on those in the upper room. And we're looking at a story about a man named Cornelius, who was a Roman soldier. A Roman soldier, not a Jew. And if you pull up verse 2 for me, please. I want you to see what it says about him so you know who we're talking about. Cornelius was in charge of 100 men. So he was somebody in this Roman army. But it says of him, he was a captain of the Italian regiment, a devout man. He was a believer of extraordinary character. Now, he didn't know this Jesus. He was a Jew. Sounds like he had converted to Judaism. He was a devout man with extraordinary character who worshiped God and prayed regularly with all his family. So he already had taken a position. That was his position. in life, that he had taken that position of believing in God and praying regularly. He also had a heart for the poor. Excuse me. And he gave generously to help them. The King James says his alms and his prayers had reached God. So that God took note of that.
Yes.
That makes you stop and think, aha, here's an extra tidbit here on that, on your giving and your. But your alms is what are not your tithes. Your alms are different. Your alms are like donations, things you do to help people that don't have. Right. To help somebody else. And that can be just the same as sharing what you've got. But God takes notice of it. So here he is, he's praying. He's in this position of prayer. And this relationship with God through prayer and giving. And that's his position. So what happens because of that position is he's in prayer one day and an angel appears before him. And that's because he's in the right position. And this angel gives him some instruction to lead him into some new understanding of what God's got for him because of his position. All right? Not his position as a captain in the Roman army. That had no weight in this. This was his position of prayer, a humble position of prayer and a heart of giving. All right? So this angel comes to him and he says, now think about this if you're in his position. All of your prayers and your generosity to the poor have ascended before God as an eternal offering. Wow, an eternal offering. That means it lasts forever. It bears weight forever.
Yes.
All right. He says, now send some men down to Joppa and find Simon the Rock, or Peter. And he told him what town he was going to be in, whose house he was in, and that the house was located by the sea. So he get very information on where to find him. He gets down, so he immediately calls 2 trusted servants and a military guy. It's like this military attaché, the one that takes extra care of him. Once he trusted. And he sent these 3 men to Joppa. Well, apparently it was a day's journey. Now, so they're on their way to Joppa. The next day, we see that here's Peter. And he's on the rooftop. And he's praying. Peter's position is a position of prayer. He's in prayer also. And he's on this roof praying. And it says he fell into a trance. If you go down to verse 9 for me, Walter. So as Cornelius' men were approaching Joppa, Peter's up here praying. And he fell into a trance and entered into another realm. Is the way this is the Passion Translation. As the heavenly realm opened up. So there is an opening up of the heavenly realm to his understanding because he's praying. He's giving time and attention to it.
Yes.
You know. So this is making something happen. Well, so what happens is in this vision, a voice came to him and he said, Peter. Well, first of all, he sees this cloth. Some say a sheet. This version says a tablecloth. And he sees this cloth with 4 corners lifted down, and on this cloth are all kind of animals. There are animals that are clean for the Jewish people to eat, and there are unclean animals on here. And he hears this voice that says, Peter, go and prepare them to be eaten. But this was a picture for Peter. This was preparation for Peter. It wasn't really about food at all. even though it was the vision showed food. The four corners represented the four corners of the world. And the Lord is taking Peter. Let me not get ahead of myself. Let me read you one more verse, down to verse 13. Nope. The voice said to Peter, "Go and prepare them to be eaten." 14 says, Peter replied, "There's no way. I couldn't do that, Lord. For I've never eaten anything forbidden or impure according to the Jewish laws." Now, this tells you a position that Peter's got.
Right.
According to the Jewish law. Well, he's doing what he thinks is right. Oh, but God's got another idea. The Lord is going to expand his understanding and stretch out the cords of his tent, so to speak, like Isaiah 54 says. He's saying, let me show you something different here. So he tells the Lord, I couldn't do that. But the voice says to him, "Nothing is unclean if God declares it to be clean."
Yes.
All right? And the vision was repeated 3 times. Now remember, Peter is a man of a lot of threes. He denied the Lord 3 times. The Lord reestablished him with 3 questions. "Peter, do you love me? And feed my sheep." "Yes, Lord, you know I love